More testimony from the whistleblower who actually worked, the deputy junior district attorney in Cash Money G, Fani Willis's office a couple of years ago, who actually got fired for doing the right thing. If you missed my previous video where Amanda Timpson, who potentially could come on our show, so make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. She spoke about the misuse of federal funds, of how Cash Money G, the federal grant money was intended for this youth program, and all of a sudden it was misappropriated and misused by Cash Money G to go on vacations, to buy brand new Apple MacBooks, etc., etc. If you missed that video, I'll leave it in the end screen at the end, or just go to my channel on Rumble or YouTube and watch it there. In this testimony, Amanda Timpson testifies to the brutal retaliation, how ruthless, cunning, how sinister Cash Money G, Fani Willis is. This poor woman was just thinking she was actually doing Cash Money G a favor. Actually thinking, you know what, I'm going to prevent her office from this unreal corruption and pollution of ethics, doing the right thing. She actually thought she was doing the right thing by warning her, hey, you know what, there's something fishy going on with this grant program. The funds are not being directed to where the program needs to go. These are taxpayer dollars. They're not being funneled in the right direction for use for this youth program. Something is fishy. Just for bringing that up, listen to the brutal, relentless, and ruthless retaliation of Cash Money Jew, who essentially ruined this poor woman's entire career. And she's young. She had a promising future. This is so powerful. Check this out.
Of 2021, the overwhelming retaliation and pushback got so bad. I sent an email to Miss Willis, and I told her that I had followed the chain of command to no avail, and I really needed to speak with her. At this time, I believed that she had no idea what was going on, and I wanted to make her aware of what I saw to be a potentially illegal and dangerous situation, and I didn't want there to be any scandal related to her administration.
You sent that directly to her?
I did.
Did she reply?
She did not.
Okay.
But I believe 2 or 3 days later, Mr. Cuffey approached me and said that he knew that I reached out to her, and that no matter what I did, that she was just going to come back to him. And so at that point, I didn't really know who to go to or what to do, because when I attempted to make her aware of what I saw to be a illegal situation, it was told directly to the person that was doing what I saw to be illegal.
Mr. Cuffey?
Mr. Cuffey,
okay.
Correct.
Did you complain to anybody else other than Mr. Cuffey in your email to Fani Willis?
Not in my initial email. Things started to progress as far as my retaliation. It was almost daily that it was something. If it wasn't something, it was, something else. Eventually, the junior DA program started to near. And he started saying that he was going to be buying Apple products with the junior DA funds.
Apple products like Apple iPhones or computers?
Computers.
Okay.
And I don't know why, but he just really wanted these Apple computers. So I let him know that we couldn't do that with the junior DA funds either. And so he took me off directing the junior DA program and put other people in my place. And then eventually, when junior DA started in June of 2021, I noticed that there were youth in the program that were not Fulton County residents, weren't even residents of the state of Georgia. There were youth in the program from Florida, from Wisconsin. And so, of course, I questioned it. I felt like, our youth in Fulton County have so much need. Why are we not focusing on the youth in our county, especially when the grant and the grant application or the application to the program specifically say that must be Fulton County residents, must attend Fulton County or Atlanta Public Schools. So when I brought that to him,
we're still talking about Mr. Cuffey.
Mr. Cuffey, excuse me, sorry. So when I brought that to Mr. Cuffey, the next day I was told that we needed to have a meeting, and he attempted to put me on some type of a plan, like a professional development plan. I've never been written up, never had any warnings, so I
was wondering if you have a history of being a troublemaker in the workplace.
I do not. And in the evidence that I gave you, I also included 24 letters of recommendation from everybody that I've worked for in the past 12 years, including everybody here in Atlanta that I've ever worked for, saying the exact opposite of what's been stated of me. However, he tried to put me on some plan, but the plan was like a personal attack on me. It talked about my appearance, and it was just not a professional. So I escalated my concerns to HR. It was just so much. I was extremely anxious, even coming to work, because I just didn't know from day to day what type of retaliation I would receive. So on November 19th of 2021, I had an opportunity to speak with Ms. Willis again. And because the fact that the first time I spoke with her regarding these funds, I was demoted, I decided to record her. And I think it was just because I was fearful of what type of retaliation even bringing it up would have. But also, again, like my track record with her was the last time I did this, I was demoted. And so I did have a chance to speak with her, and I told her.
Was that an in-person conversation?
It was an in-person conversation.
How did you record that conversation?
On my phone.
All right. Tell us about that conversation.
Yes, sir. I just spoke with her and told her about my concerns with the grants and how I knew that the grants were allocated for a specific purpose, and the way that Mr. Cuffey was essentially stating that he wanted to spend the grants was illegal. It was impossible under the grant, and she said that she didn't disagree with me, and she said she really wanted me to listen to the words that she was saying, that I wasn't necessarily wrong, essentially. And then she proceeded to tell me that Michael Cuffey had failed in her administration, and that everybody who does that essentially pretends to be her friend. And I just went on to say that I felt like there was some, I think I said funny style business going on, and I just wanted to ensure that she knew. And she proceeded to tell me that things take a long time to get to her. It's a new administration. But not once did she ever say that I was wrong. Not once did she ever say that I was off base or that what I was saying was untrue at any point in our conversation. And so that was November 19th. December 7th of 2021, I wrote her an email, and I CC'd Dominique Martinez, who is, I believe, one of the county attorneys, and I just kind of told her, what I had experienced in the office, and that how my treatment had brought me a significant amount of anxiety. I thought that I was going to ultimately retire from the DA's office, and it made a place that I used to be proud of working at hell for me, essentially. I never received a letter back or any notice that she even read it. And then in January, I don't know if you want me to go that far.
Oh, you're doing great. So
Okay.
now you're up to January of 22.
Yes.
So you've been still working there for a year. You just got demoted and essentially harassed in your employment.
Yes.
And taken off of websites and cut out of meetings, et cetera. Okay.
Absolutely. And so in December 22nd of 2022, I was actually sent home due to COVID. Somebody was exposed with COVID, and they knew that I was unvaccinated, so I was sent home. And then I got sick, and when I get sick, I get really, really sick. And so I returned back to work on January 12th of 2022 with multiple doctor's letters because that's what they asked me for.
Prove you weren't contagious with COVID or whatever.
Yes, I was actually told to quarantine for 10 days and then come back. But after it was obviously during the holidays because I was sent home on the 22nd, and then I came back on January 12th. And January 14th, on January 12th, I got my leave slip signed and all that good stuff.
We don't know what that means. What's a leave slip?
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. When you leave from work. So I produced my documents from my physician and then they signed.
Excused absence, basically. You had your doctor's note.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it.
And then January 12th, I made my third. I kind of have to go back. January 12th, I made another request for health-related accommodation, but I also, during this time, if I could go back, December 2nd was my first official complaint with the DCRC, which is the...
Okay, we got to slow down on that. That's
Yes.
the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance?
Yes, sir.
Is that a county office?
Yes.
And y'all refer to that as the DCRC, is kind of the vernacular in the...
Yes.
As for county employees?
Yes, sir.
When did you first complain to them?
I first complained to them December 2nd of 2021. And I made another complaint, I believe, on December 18th, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then I made my third, well, let me get to the January 14th. So January 14th, the January 12th email that I sent regarding my health, I CC'd one of my supervisors. At this time now, I have 3 supervisors because I'm working in multiple departments. And on the morning of, or on January 13th, she asked me what it was about, and then January 14th, she asked me into her office just to make sure I was okay, or so I thought. So I had a discussion with her. I had a pre-arranged meeting with the director of the DCRC, Niger Thomas, at 1 p.m. on January 14th of 2022.
Okay.
Following my conversation with Miss Ramona Toole
That was the supervisor that you had talked to?
Yes, she was my supervisor. I essentially, unfortunately, told her everything. I just told her, what was going on. I told her about my health issues. I told her about the retaliation. And so following that meeting, I had my prearranged meeting with Miss Niger Thomas. I went to that meeting with Miss Niger Thomas at 1 p.m.
She is the director of the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance?
She was at the time. Now it's Melissa Cathrell, but she was at the time. And I went in there to speak with her about the whistleblowing and how ultimately the whistleblowing led to all this additional retaliation. And I was in her office for probably about 90 minutes.
The whistleblowing was bringing up the misuse of federal funds.
Correct.
Okay.
And so I was in her office for about 90 minutes. While I was in the office with her, I received to my county phone a request for a meeting request for January 18th at 2 p.m. From Miss Willis and Dexter Bond. I told Miss Niger Thomas in that meeting that I did not feel safe going into that meeting by myself. And she said that she would have a member of the Fulton County Human Resources Department accompany me to that meeting if I didn't feel safe. And I asked...
Did Ms. Willis tell you in that phone text the purpose or the reason for the January 18th meeting?
No, it was just, it just came to my email from my phone, from my county phone.
So it was an email?
Yes. And so I guess I left that meeting scared, but kind of glad that I felt somebody else was essentially like in my corner to advocate for me. Somebody would be with me at that meeting on the 18th, so I wouldn't be by myself. And I went back to my area and continued on my Excel spreadsheet that I started that morning. About 20 to 25 minutes later, there's like a knock on the side of the thing, and they said Capers Green, who was the chief investigator for under Miss Willis, he said, Miss Timpson, I got some unfortunate documentation for you. I need you to get your stuff and we're going to walk you out the building. And he handed me my termination letter. And
immediately after you meeting with the director of the Diversity and Civil Rights Compliance Division.
yes,
You think she ratted you out or told them that you were making these complaints?
I believe that Ramona Toole in the conversation that we had that morning went directly to Miss Willis, and I think that it's possible that Niger Thomas said something. I cannot speak to that, but I think it's more likely that Ramona Toole, who is a good friend and ally of Miss Willis, must have went to her office and let her know that I told her what was going on. And ultimately, I was walked out of the building by 7 armed investigators and given a letter that was completely, it just says that I'm an at-will employee and that my services were no longer needed.
Did you have a reason for your termination?
They did not include, I didn't receive a separation letter for almost 2 months because they refused to give that to me, but when they did, it just said employee discharge. So I had no understanding to this day because ultimately the PDP that Cuffey had written was, Ms. Willis did say that was null and void. He didn't follow proper channels. There was no documentation. So there was I have never received a warning in the almost 4 years that I was at the DA's office. In fact, the opposite. I have received praises from both Ms. Willis and Mr. Howard my entire time at the DA's office. I've never required or received any disciplinary action on any level outside of the retaliation and ultimate termination from my job.
What are the DA's office's rules about retaliation for raising issues or whistleblowing or bringing irregularities to their attention? Does the DA's office have a personnel policy, or is it covered by Fulton County's personnel policy?
My understanding is, well, at the time that I was fired, under Miss Willis, they didn't have an employee handbook. That was something that was still being worked on, so there was no policy, so we fell under the Fulton County policy. And under Fulton County policy, it's my understanding that it's unlawful, just like it is in the state of Georgia, to retaliate against, demote, or provide any adverse employment actions against somebody who is blowing the whistle.
Okay. And after that, you're out of work.
So yes, after that, I'm out of work. As a last attempt at retaliation, the time that I had been out sick was now reported as leave without pay. That's what they classified it under. So I was for a while until I was able to correct it with Fulton County outside of the DA's office. So they took over, I think it was $4,000 of leave without pay. They kept me on as an active employee without pay, so I was unable to get any unemployment, and so just to keep myself and my family afloat, we had to tap into my retirement. Once my complaint was actually filed, Ms. Willis made completely slanderous and libelous statements against me. So anybody that essentially Googled me for a job would ask me in interviews, what is this about? And anybody who's ever hired anybody knows that it's already a gamble. So if somebody in a position of authority is saying that this person is inadequate, they may likely believe that. So it made my life extremely hard, and my family's life extremely hard. And just, for me, I'm here today to fight for my reputation, to fight for the youth of Fulton County, but also for the truth, because, I did everything that Fulton County requires me to do to be essentially protected. I did everything that that the DA's office requires you to be protected, and I wasn't every step of the way.
How many jobs did you apply to?
I to get the job that I'm at now, I applied to over 1,000 jobs just so somebody would hear me enough for me to be able to get back into a position that was even halfway comparable to what I did before. And I've been, I worked it like I was working a 9 to 5. I applied and I made sure that every single day I was intentional about what I was doing so that I could mitigate what had been done to me and make sure that me and my family were okay.
How many months were you out of work?
I think total it was 5, but then after that it was the initial job that I got was just a floater job, essentially to make sure we didn't lose our home and stuff. But it took me until September of 2023 to land a job that was comparable to what I had at the DA's office.
Okay.
Wow. 7 security officers to escort her out? And what was her crime? What did she do wrong? What was her violation? Did she violate employee policy, guidelines, the handbook? Did she do a terrible job? No, as a matter of fact. Cash Money G Fani Willis even asked her to work on another program. You don't ask somebody to work on another program if you think they're doing a piss poor job. You don't do that. I've hired plenty of people. Some of you probably have. It just doesn't work that way. For doing what? For doing the right thing. For doing the right thing. She thought she was actually helping Fani Willis when it was her. I mean, it's like a movie. It's like a movie. You're like, oh, you know what? I really like working here. I'm doing a good job. I'm hustling. She wants me to work on different programs. Something doesn't look fishy here. I know she's going to appreciate me bringing this to her attention because this could damage the reputation of the DA's office. And she does exactly that. She does the right thing. And not only does Cash Money G demote her, embarrass her, humiliate her, take her off the website, take her out of meetings, treat her poorly. Probably, I can't even imagine the toxicity of that work environment. But she completely destroys her career. And she said it was so well said. And by the way, there's a lot of whistleblowers out there that are looking for not always on the up and up, not to be cynical, but actually factual. There's a lot of whistleblowers that have ulterior motives. I believe every word of Amanda Timpson. She seems so credible. I've even talked to her in a few email exchanges. She is not looking for any advantage. She's not looking for any nefarious, type of advancement in any way, shape, or form. She's not looking for money. She's not looking for notoriety. She's not looking for fame, anything like that. She just wants the truth. I completely 1,000,000,000% believe her through and through. Let me know in the comments what you think of her. But not only does she get treated like a criminal, 7 security guards, but then you completely ruin this poor woman's career, this young up and coming, and all she was doing the right thing. And then you have the audacity to go to church, Cash Money G. You have the audacity to go on all these woke mind virus mafia networks with Rachel Madcow and all these other people and say, they're coming after me for false reasons. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm here for the people. Fulton County knows. Shame on you, Cash Money G. You are nothing but a thug and a crook and a low-grade one at that. You can't even pretend. You can't even pretend to act like somebody who's on the up and up. You are so corrupt. You are so polluted with rot gut, internally, externally, superficially, and deeply on many multiple levels that you just absolutely stank. You stank of corruption. It just oozes right up off you. You know that character on the Charlie Brown? I forget who it was. Was it Linus? Every time you see him on the in a skit or in a show, he's got that funk, following him, and there's flies and the funk, it's the fumes. That's what you got, Cash Money G. You got funk. You funkadelic. Oh my God. This is so damning. This is so powerful, and it is so refreshing to have the truth come out. But I want to hear from you, Nez Nation. Oh my goodness. There's going to be more, by the way. You want to follow, become a Nez Nation Insider. That's our free newsletter. There's going to be so much more. There's going to be more people subpoenaed. There's going to be more elements to this. There's even more. I've got more videos coming out just from this testimony. This was over 3 hours of testimony. I've got more coming from this. You don't want to miss this. Make sure you subscribe. Our free newsletters in the pinned comment and in the description. I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. Check out these videos coming out. This is the one I was telling you about. If you missed that one, go check that one out because it's super powerful. This is about her talking about the misuse of federal funds. Subscribe and follow. And as always, God bless you and may God bless America. I'll see you soon.